everyone, I am here today with this week's weekly reading wrap-up where I read two books. One was an audiobook and one was a physical book, which means, yep, as you may have seen from the thumbnail, I finally finished Night Film. But yeah, first of all, the audiobook that I read this week, and that was The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I gave it 3 stars. Now, The Great Gatsby is a sort of modern classic where there's a lot of sort of character intrigue and sort of like really strong messages behind motivations that happen in there. And I feel like that comes across really strongly in the film. And while it does also come across really strongly in the audiobook, I did prefer the film. I don't know whether it's because I'm a little bit of a Leonardo DiCaprio fan at heart, but I found the audiobook was quite easy to listen to. I flew through it in a few days, but I wasn't finding it easy to listen to in the fact of I wasn't hooked to it. I was just putting it on because I wanted to listen to an audiobook. I was, doing things around the house where I would normally have an audiobook on. I was, like, if I'd been busy, I don't think I'd have flown through it. I was just putting it on because I was able to put it on rather than because I wanted to put it on. I didn't feel necessarily hooked to the story. It's quite a short audiobook, it was something like 5 hours, so it's not like it was a mega slog to go through or anything. It's just, I wasn't really there. I just didn't develop any strong feelings about it either way. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. It was just something I listened to and then it was done and then I was like, oh yeah, that was good, preferred the film. And so yeah, I will probably reread this again in the future via a sort of physical copy rather than an audiobook because it will be a different reading experience and I'd quite like to experience that sometime in a few years too. So yeah, if you've never read this, then I highly recommend it. Like, it's an important read, but yeah, if you've seen the film, maybe just stick with that. So as I already said, the second book I finished this week was Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I've been reading this book for 13 months. No word of a lie. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a thick book. It's over 600 pages. But 13 months? Come on. Now, granted, I put it down for several of those months and just didn't even touch it at all. I wasn't in the mood, or I was reading some other physical book that I wanted to read more. But all the same, I feel like I had problems with this book. Now, I gave it 4 stars and I really, really enjoyed it. But I read the last 250 pages or so in the last 2 days. And those 250 pages or so are what gave this 4 stars because I just all of a sudden clicked with everything that was going on and I was like, oh my God. And like every time I thought that I had a clue as to what was going on, something else would happen. Like I've seen other people describe it through using some of the lines that were in this book as like hitting like the ground, thinking that you've actually like finally sussed out what's going on and then falling through another trapdoor. It's just crazy. I don't want to go too much into what this is about because it is a psychological thriller and it's told really interestingly because you've got all these like newspaper articles and websites and like all these different multimedia ways of showing things, which makes it a really interesting read in that sense. And the author also does an absolutely fantastic job at just like totally weaving this story in such a ridiculous way. Like, I think that really is the best way of describing this. Like, it's just weaving things and weaving things. You're like, what? I thought that, and then you like, everything just gets taken away from you and you find out that actually what you thought was accurate wasn't accurate at all. You start really questioning what's going on at a certain point. You're like, I don't know whether I can even trust you or not. Like, what? This messed with my head in a good way, but 13 months. 13 months. I'd struggle to recommend this to anyone as their sort of first ever thriller they read because this is just mammoth. This is complex at times. It takes a lot of sort of attention. It's got really small, quite small font, which means that you're reading a page for, if you're a slower reader, quite some time. You lose track of things if you put it down. This hasn't helped me with my 13-month quest on this. The amount of times I've put it down for a few weeks, a month longer, and then I've had to go back a few chapters to sort of get myself back into what the heck was going on every single time. It's a difficult and dark read. It's so twisty, but it's also so fabulous. And so I realise that I've still not really said anything about this. I don't want to say an awful lot about it, but just to give you an idea, you've got a guy named Scott, and he has a family, but he's no longer living with them. I can't remember whether it's divorced or not. That was probably ages ago. Last year I probably read that. And he's got a daughter, and he doesn't always give them the attention that he should, hence why they're now split up. And he's obsessed with a guy named Cordova, and he's like a famous film director. And Cordova has a daughter named Ashley who ends up dead. And so Scott gets really obsessed with trying to solve what happened to Ashley. That is the basics of this. It's, as I said, really easy to get totally obsessed with once you are properly into it. It's just the getting into it. I mean, there were several times earlier on in the book where I was like, oh, I'm hooked. And I'd be there like, yeah. And then I'd put it down because I'd be tired, or I'd need to go out, or I'd need to do something. And when I got back in, I just didn't ever feel a pull to pick it back up. There was nothing pulling me in until, as I said, around maybe page 400, maybe just a bit before there. And that's a long way to have to get invested into a book to be properly hooked. So yeah, that is my overall thought on this book. I feel like I may read it again one day in the distant future, because there's probably things that I missed with taking 13 months to read it. And it was enjoyable overall. So yeah, that is all that I read this week. I am still reading The Diviners by Libba Bray, and I've made some more progress in that, and I'm really, really loving it. It was just, I suddenly, as I said, got hooked into Night Film. I was like, right, I'm going to finish Night Film. I knew I'd finish one or the other by today, so I'm actually really happy that it was Night Film that I finished. So it's time to pick out another TBR bag pick. What have we got? Ooh. Well, this makes me happy. I finally am going to read one of my Jennifer L. Armentrout books. If you have watched any of my hauls, you will see that I collect her books by the bucket load, and I've never read any of them. So this one is Half Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm not sure whether it's in a series. If it is in a series and it's not the first one, I will own the first one, no doubt. So I will just chuck anything that I need to onto my Kindle and read them all at some point. But yeah, I am so happy to have picked out a book that I have owned since 2016, since we're nearly in 2018, and hopefully I can read it soon. So my current audiobook is The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. Really enjoying that. It's so different to anything else I've been reading this week. As I said, I've had Night Film on the go, I've had The Diviners on the go. It's been so nice to just have something more sort of not so dark to pay attention to. And as for physical books, since I have finished Night Film, I can finally do what I have been wanting to do for over a year and reread the whole of Harry Potter. I'm going to start with The Philosopher's Stone, and I'm going to read the illustrated edition because, yeah, it's such a fun reading experience reading these. So yeah, that's all that I'm currently reading and plan to read in the next week. Oh, there is also a graphic novel that I need to read and review that I got. What's it called? That is Theatrix by Neil Gibson. I'll be picking that up probably today and giving that a quick read before diving into Harry Potter. So yeah, that is definitely now all that I am currently reading and plan to read this next week, and what I have read this previous week. Let me know what you've read recently, whether you've read any of these, whether you want to read any of these, whether you're now looking at Night Film going, it took you 13 months, no thank you. Let me know anything that you want to say in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe by clicking the image of me to say if you want to see more book reviews and other bookish content from me, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye!